think it's about service because we do that as a family, and it's nothing more service oriented than really being a teacher.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Current, Touro University, California's alumni podcast. I'm Glenn Faison, the Alumni Engagement Director here at the university, and we're coming to you from the Social Justice Resource Center in the library here on campus. Joining us today is Brenda Mitchell. She's a 2015 graduate of the Master's in Education program in the Graduate School of Education. Also an assistant professor here now at Touro University in the Graduate School of Education, a clinical coach coordinator in the College of Education and Health Sciences. At some point you're going to have to explain to everyone what that is, and myself as well. And also the treasurer of the Alumni Association Board of Directors. So Brenda, thank you for joining us today.
And thank you for inviting me.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. So you know, you're an educator, but before you worked in the classroom in a public school and then transitioned to Touro University, California, you had a 15-year career in the financial sector. You were doing process improvement and management in the financial sector. Is that correct? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that was all about?
Oh, sure. Actually, it was more than 15 years. I just
Oh, okay.
want to date myself. In the private sector, it was a financial institution. And actually, I started as a full-time mom. I need to give credit where credit is due. I was a full-time mom, and I decided, Brenda, you've been home too long. You better get back into the workforce. So luckily, at that time, the financial industries were looking for 24-hour. They were going 24 hours.
Okay.
Customer service, and that was relatively new. And so I was hired on the spot, and that's how I started. I started just saying, hello, this is such and such company, how may I help you? But the strategic part of it was it gave me an opportunity to learn about the different departments at the bank, because I didn't know a lot about banking. So I decided, oh wow, you know, compliance looks pretty good because I like to read and I just like compliance. So I left there and transitioned to compliance, and into sales, real estate sales, and then into projects within real estate sales.
Okay.
And I had a lovely time. And the benefit also was just really learning how to manage people. I really have to give credit to the private sector. They put a lot of money into developing managers. So I spent 15 plus years really just developing management skills, which benefited me a great deal when I transitioned from the private sector to education.
All right. So that was a great segue there. What led you to decide that, hey, I think I want to be a classroom teacher?
You know, I just think it's in my DNA, truly. When I left the private sector, I thought, well, darn, I've got a few more years to live. You know, what else am I going to do? And I thought back to what I did before I started working in finance, and that was teaching my children. We spent a lot of time, you know, you remember World Book and Childcraft?
Yes.
And all of those great TV shows. My home looked like a daycare. And so I thought, you know, I think I really like that, even though my kids said, no, you don't want to be a teacher. But Touro was in my neighborhood, and I thought I came up for an interview, an informational session, and I thought, yeah, this is what I want to do. My grandfather was a teacher, and he was a teacher in the Deep South when, you know, they didn't have new books, and you still had to figure out. He was brilliant. He went on to college, he got his undergraduate degree in education, got his master's in education, and all of his children went to university as well. My mother is a teacher, or was a teacher, and my aunts. And so that's why I say, yes, I think it's in my DNA. And my DNA, I think it's about service, because we do that as a family, and it's nothing more service-oriented than really being a teacher. And, you know, serving children, families, enhancing the community, and our society as a whole. So that brought me to education, and with Touro in my neighborhood.
Okay, so you came here did you get your credential through Touro?
I got my teaching credentials here in
And-
multiple subjects.
Okay, and then you went on and got your master's
Yeah, I went
degree.
and got
So
my
what?
master's.
So the credential obviously is required in order for
Yes.
you to teach standalone in the classroom. But why did you take it a step further and get the master's degree?
You know, I think I'm a learner. I love learning new things, and I thought, okay, I do have the preliminary, but there's still more to it. And my passion was really teaching reading, teaching students how to think, how to strategize, that metacognitive ability that we all have, but we don't realize it, and sometimes it's squashed when we're very young. And that was a passion of mine, I thought. And I met with Dr. Redmond, who is over the program here, the master's program. And I thought, this is where I want to go, because I would be able to research, read all the literature, and just get more information on how I could be a better teacher, more effective teacher, a more effective just teacher in my teaching community and outside of my community. And it did help, because my project was reading. I had my little guys whose parents had to sign the documentation to be part of my research, because it was my thesis. And I chose students who read 2 to 3 grades below grade level.
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of literature I read said effective tutoring is effective tutoring. There's a way to tutor and to close the reading gap. Doesn't take years and years and years, and it isn't rocket science, but there's an effective way of doing it. And so I applied. They were so cute. I applied all of those strategies, and truly, after 10 weeks, it was about 10 weeks of that tutoring, and they met with me twice a week. They were in the after-school programs. I come get them, take them to my classroom.
Okay.
And after 10 weeks, they were at 6.5 grade. They were 6th graders.
Okay.
So they went from reading at 3.5 and 4 to 6.5 in 10 weeks. Their parents were, so it can be done. You can't just do it alone. You do need that adult in the home who is also interested. And it could be a parent, uncle, aunt, grandma, next door neighbor, just someone else who says, okay, now what are we going to do today? What did Ms. Mitchell tell you to do today? Let's do it. They don't have to be able to read. You don't have to be a good reader. You don't have to be able to speak English to raise children who can read well and do well in school.
Well, that's great. So you touched on, full disclosure here, we've known each other for quite some time.
Yes.
My wife teaches at Hogan Middle School. You were a teacher at Hogan Middle School,
Yes.
both teaching 6th grade. So I
Yes.
know you taught 6th grade. Is that the only grade you taught in public school?
That is the only grade I taught,
Okay.
and I adore 6th graders.
And was it all at Hogan?
It was all at Hogan, but
Okay,
I was
great.
also a student teacher.
Okay.
So when I came along, there were no interns. People were student teachers. And so this was, 2012. And so I was a student teacher for 1st grade and 3rd grade. So 1st grade isn't my but 1st grade teachers they really have it, because they really have to teach kids how to read. That was a tough grade. 3rd grade, I loved it. That was a lot like 6th graders.
Okay.
The 6th grade is my passion. Middle school.
And how long were you in the public school setting?
It was just over 7 years.
7 years. And did you transition directly to the professor role here at Touro?
Well, actually, while I was at teaching 6th grade, I was an adjunct
Okay.
here. And, I had grandma duties. And so I retired to be a full-time grandma, but that turned out to add more hours at Touro. And so then I expanded my time at Touro.
Okay. Well, great. So, so you had all of this experience in the financial sector, the management specifically that you talked about. My wife talks all the time about classroom management, so I'm sure there was some benefit there. But how specifically did your previous experience prior to becoming a teacher really help you when you made that shift and were actually in the classroom with 30 some odd kids, 6th graders?
Yeah, effective managers or servants, they really are. They serve the people who who are executing what needs to be executed. And one of the ways to do that effectively is to get to know the people who are doing the work for you. So I brought that acumen to the classroom, getting to know the student and getting to know the student's parents, and engaging, finding out their interest. And as a project manager, you're dealing with from technology to people to processes to different departments with different priorities, but you want to have your priority. So you learn how to deal with complicated, complex situations. And so I noticed my students, they have different learning styles. And so, yes, I really did. I got all their learning styles. And I put them on their name tags, and they got to know their learning style. And this was so key. There are auditory learners, there are visual learners, there are tactile learners. And if you teach to the auditory, like they do at Berkeley, I can't be in an auditorium and really pay attention, but there are some people who can. And so if you have a third as a teacher, you need to know how to develop your lessons so you can reach every child. When we talk about reaching every child, it isn't just repeating yourself again and again, but it is teaching to the learning style of those children in front of you. And I taught them how to identify their learning style. And as a result, my kids, they just excel. And I even taught them how to politely say, once they leave me, teacher, I'm an auditory learner. Will you do this? Or teacher, I'm a tactile learner. Can I see that again? Or can you illustrate that for me? I used to practice, because I said, this is what you do when you go to your next teacher. And that's how, and that's what really the private sector, I took a lot of really good skills and implemented them. And at the end of the year, every year I was a teacher, my students developed a resume because we did so much. And I still have their resumes. I hope they still do too. But I wanted them to know that their skill set was marketable. So, yeah.
And you were also teaching them self-advocacy skills.
Absolutely.
In sixth grade, which is wonderful.
Sixth grade, absolutely.
If you're teaching them that it's okay to ask their seventh grade teacher to maybe show them something in a different way because they're not quite getting it, how it was presented, that is hardcore self-advocacy right there.
Hardcore. Teaching, kids how to learn and how to advocate for themselves.
And to respectfully communicate with an adult, all of that. That's wonderful. So I know that those same skills, I'm sure, transferred into the roles that you have here at Touro University, California.
Yes.
But I'm also sure you were able to take them up a notch. So what have you been able to do? How much of the private sector experience have you really been able to push through not only the folks that you're teaching, but also through the clinical coach coordinating that you're doing?
Well, again, I learned how to teach how to manage adults in the private sector. And going to education, I saw it was pretty much the same. They were really adults are like, middle schoolers in adult bodies. They need to be validated. They need to be listened to. They have a skill set that they would like you to acknowledge and implement. And so everything I did, it was just validating. At the Graduate School of Education, we wrote a grant, a U.S. prep, and they provided us those funds to transform the teacher preparation program. And that transformation has been phenomenal in that the teachers who are the interns, and very few student teachers, those interns who are teachers of record, they're it, teachers of record. There isn't another teacher in the classroom, they're it. They needed coaching. They needed more impactful, targeted coaching, targeted specific to, once again, their personal needs, their teaching style, their learning style. And so we coached and developed our field supervisors we had to do a kind of a mindset change with them, with the documentation. What does coaching look like? What do you hear? You know, what should you say to get the results you want? To make that adult who is it is an adult, that adult teacher who is the teacher of record and still a student at Touro. How can you maximize your support of that teacher student so they could be effective teachers?
Okay. So let's go back to the whole concept of clinical coach coordinator.
Yes.
Why don't you explain that for me and for the folks who are listening?
Yeah, the clinical coach coordinator. We have clinical coaches. We call them, they were called field supervisors, now they're called clinical coaches. And we have teachers at districts and all the schools. Probably all the new teachers, probably 80% of them are interns if they're not seasoned teachers, as opposed to some subs. And so they're interns, and they are in classes at teacher preparation schools. In Touro is one, our graduate school of education, and they're taking courses to learn how to be effective teachers.
Okay.
When I started from the private sector, there was a word, pedagogy. I had never heard pedagogy before in my life. Like, how do you spell it? What is it? CSET. How do you spell it? What is it? A lot of acronyms. But there are a lot of steps teachers must go through to be effective teachers. And they're not hurdles, actually. They are truly step ladders. They're significant. Something that's called the CSET is significant. The CSET, it asks the teacher who is in training, do you know math and history and science? How much do you know? Because you're going to teach it. And it isn't so much of that, I concluded. I think it's really about what discipline do you have. You have the discipline to study as a teacher, since you're asking students to do the same.
Right.
Do you have the discipline to really think metacognitively and know when you're learning something, know how to apply it and execute it? I think that's really what those state tests are really asking you to do.
Okay.
And so the clinical coach, and I'm the clinical coordinator, and we have clinical coaches who they coach them on effective teaching strategies. And we're a team, and I think that was a shift too. So we're on that intern teachers team. We're not here to give them an F or an X. We are here to see what they're doing that they can enhance. And we have a rubric so they can really, again, assess their own advances and see what they're doing that they may need to enhance. And so as a clinical coordinator, I manage and supervise all the clinical coaches. And we have, PDs, professional development, because there's always something to learn as a coach. You never stop learning. There's always something new that you can try to implement to be better at your craft. And it's really working because our interns, I'm hearing from our districts how they really like the teaching, how effective their interns are who go to Touro University Graduate School of Education. So that money they gave us, we did it well. We manipulated it well. Or
Great.
managed it well, right?
Well, thanks for sharing, everything about the grant that allows for Touro to help train teachers so that they can become more effective in the classroom. So teaching is not an easy gig. I don't know a single teacher that will tell you that it's an easy gig. So you did it kind of a non-traditional way. You had a career, and then you transitioned into teaching. What recommendations would you give to anyone who maybe was on a different path and is thinking, I think I might want to be a teacher? What recommendations would you give to them?
To follow your passion. Because if you find that you love serving and helping people to be the best they can be, realize their potential, then there's a place for you in the field of education, truly. And take every class as There are courses you take here. They're all significant courses. There are state tests that you take. They are significant. What I love about Touro's teacher preparation program, every class prepares you for those state tests. We don't teach to the test, we teach to the person, we teach to the industry, we teach to be effective educators. And you know, you probably had several different teachers growing up. I bet they were awesome. They were different, but if they were effective their way. And that's what we do here at Touro. So I would say, and we have those clinical coaches who stay with you, and they are trained to be actual coaches and not someone to just check off, you know, the step number 2, step number 3, but they are there to assist you, be that sounding board for you, as well as the adjunct professors who are here, as well as myself. And so my advice is try it. I don't think there's anything more fulfilling than to be a teacher. Really think about it. You are impacting society. That's huge. That's huge. And in the process, you're learning more about yourself and you're becoming a better you. And so it's a win-win all the way around.
So what hurdles did you discover along the way that you were like, oh, if I had just known this, it would have been so much easier. And that's a level of wisdom that you can pass on here.
And I am, and actually that is when we make some enhancements in our courses and in our processes, that's first. It's like, okay, guys, when you say the word CSET, then explain what it is. Okay. Really. When you say CBEST, explain. I mean, I was saying, do you spell it? How do you spell it? You know. And so those kinds of things, where we're looking at that lesson plan, really tell me what's in the lesson plan that really transitions to the NTPA. And that's why this lesson plan is the way it's structured. And so make everything meaningful. Yeah. Okay. And they'll get it, and there's nothing more fulfilling. Truly nothing more fulfilling. And you can still use this skill with your grandkids, you know, the kids in your family. And so it's a skill that you will never lose. My grandfather, I think he decided to really retire in his 70s. He said he couldn't remember students' names anymore. And so he did. But he continued working at the church. He continued tutoring at the church. He never stopped tutoring, never stopped being an educator until his final breath.
Wow.
Really. Yeah.
So you've talked about these clinical coaches. They sound like mentors to me. They're mentor clinical, yes. Okay, because I know a lot of folks, a lot of the alum here are yes. from the medical side of the university through the various programs that are offered here on the yes. medical side. So they're very familiar with the whole the concept of mentors and mentorships. And it sounded to me like for the Graduate School of Education, your mentors are clinical coaches.
Our mentors are clinical coaches, absolutely.
So it's clear that the teachers who have the benefit of having a coach with them kind of early in their career while they're working on their master's degree, great benefit to the actual teacher who has a coach with them. What benefit does the coach derive from taking part in this?
Well, I found, and our coaches are retired teachers,
okay.
retired educators, and some are on the school board, you know, but they have their credentials. The benefit of learning more about coaching and seeing real time the benefits of your coaching, that you're coaching a teacher in the class and then you observe real time and you get that feedback, that's gratifying. And then you see that the students in the class are more receptive, their grades are improving because you have the stats. We have something called a student achievement chart where we teach our teachers how to assess students where they are academically before they start a lesson, a standard lesson, and then they develop a lesson based on the feedback they got from the students in terms of where they are on the learning spectrum for that lesson, for that standard. Then they develop the lesson for every student. They teach the lesson, and then they do an assessment.
Okay.
like, if only 10% got it, then that gives that teacher an opportunity to take a step back and say, oh, let me assess myself.
Okay.
Did I just teach the 10%? Let me take another look at mine. And so they share that with their clinical coach too. And it's nothing like having someone who has a vested interest in you. The clinical coaches have a vested interest in that teacher candidate. And we had a pinning ceremony, or we had Graduate School of Education had a pinning ceremony where we pinned all of our interns. And many of the clinical coaches were there. And what I got after when they left, how proud, they just felt so proud. They felt so proud that they could have that significant impact on another adult who is having significant impacts on, 30 plus students? That's huge.
That
That's
is.
profound. Yeah.
And it sounds like they're following a similar, you said a lot of them are retired educators, maybe on the school board, maybe doing whatever they're doing with their life, but it sounds like they're able to do what your father did with church. They're continuing to teach without being the teacher of record in the classroom, so they're still, all of that knowledge that they've gained over their careers, they're able to still share that and distill it, and that's just wonderful. That is just wonderful. So I'm going to shift gears here. The Touro University California Alumni Association kind of went on hiatus during the pandemic and just ramped back up this summer. Your peers elected you to serve on the board, and your peers on the board selected you to be an officer, so you're the treasurer of the board. So why did you feel that now was a good time to get involved with the Alumni Association, and kind of a follow-on to that is, why do you think it's important for alums to either reconnect or maintain that connection with Touro once they're off living their life and doing what they're doing?
Touro is an awesome university, and I tell you, if you go anywhere, I'll just say Solano County, but you go outside Solano County, and if it's health related or educational related, you will meet a Touro alumni. If you're getting your medication refilled from the pharmacist, you're going to a pediatrician, we have we have the College of Pharmacy here.
Oh, osteopathic medicine, yes.
Osteopathic medicine,
yes.
You have doctors. My granddaughter, her doctor was a graduate from Touro.
Wonderful.
And public health, people who are working in the schools, that public health professional, nurses, in nursing school here, oh my goodness, public health assistants. And so when we talk about, the alumni, we need to know who we are. We need to know you're out there. And the more alumni comes in, we can also build that pool of resources, financial resources, because we also give alumni scholarships. The Alumni Association gives scholarships to graduate students who are here at Touro. And so I think it's really a way to highlight this university in this community. And so it was a way of really learning more about the other colleges at Touro. And so I get to meet all these other folks who have the same passion, we're on the same tree, different branch, but the same tree, and it's just serving the community. And so I just think it's awesome. So I'm having a great time, meeting with them and coming up with good strategies to, tap into more alumni.
Well, that's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You're getting emails from me periodically.
Yes.
Please open them, because we're pretty judicious about what we decide to send to you, because we want to be respectful of your time. So if we're sending you something, it's because we think there's a chance you may be interested in it.
And I think we've also, collaborating with the alumni board, we decided we need to put more emphasis that the alumni wants you when our students come in to Touro. And so, we'll be doing more of that. Thank you for, bringing this group together. And so students will hear about the alumni, what the alumni is doing, not only when they leave, while they're here also.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely part of the process.
Yes.
So we're kind of at the end of our time. I don't want to cut us off, but we are getting toward the end of our time here. So I do want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. And I want to thank those of you who decided to tune in and listen to the podcast. So until next time, I'm Glenn Faison, and this is Brenda Mitchell. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.